Hello, my name is Leah. I make videos about writing and documenting my journey to hopefully maybe one day becoming traditionally published. I think I've mentioned it on this channel before, but I haven't made an actual video discussing my query journey thus far, and so today I wanted to sit down and just do a little chatty update, kind of go over what has gone on so far because I've been querying since September and I definitely have some information to share with you. For this video, I'm going to go over how I prep to start querying. I will go over my journey thus far and then give you some numbers and stats things at the end because I'm a nerd. I like seeing those things in other people's videos about querying, and so I will be sharing those with you today. So I sent out my first queries on September 13th of 2022, but the process of querying starts long before that, as you have to try to gather your query package, get stuff set up, research agents, etc. I don't remember specifically how long it took me to get all of this together because it was sort of something that I did progressively. Even as I was working on the line edit for my draft that I was going to be querying, I sort of would do some work for the day and gather some agents' names to research and work on the query letter a bit and then send that to people for feedback and so on. So it was sort of a process that happened over a couple months, just gathering all of the stuff that I needed to start. I went through so many drafts of query letters and synopsis forms, summaries? What do you even call those? It's not a letter. Many different synopses until I finally landed on something that I was happy with, and then the only question became, all right, who am I going to query first? What is my query strategy going to be? How am I going to do this in the way that's going to set me up for the best possible scenario? So what I did was I built out a Notion page basically to help me just have everything in one place, keep track of it all, and then be able to sort my agent list based on a lot of different factors. Anytime I came across an agent that I was interested in researching, I would just dump their name on this list, and then as I had time, I would go through every name, do my research on them, do my research on their agency, figure out if they would be a good fit for my book, figure out what their sort of backlist is, and then I would sort of assign them different attributes within the spreadsheet, which just helped me sort of visualize how good of an agent they would be for me, for my book, and I'd be able to group them sort of in my A, B, and C tier. Not in terms of oh, they clearly do bad at their job and so I'm gonna put them in C tier. No. C tier is still someone that I would like to query. It's more just they might like my book, I don't know, but I don't feel like I have much of a shot with them. Or maybe it's a new agent who doesn't have a lot of sales so far, and so it's hard for me to gauge if they would be a good fit for my book or not. Basically what I did was I initially tried to decide on a query strategy based off of what I've seen other people doing online. The advice that I was seeing was a bit mixed whenever I started this. So obviously the pandemic sort of changed a lot in the publishing industry, or maybe not changed a lot, but exposed a lot of issues that exist and maybe exacerbated the workload that agents and editors face. I was seeing that agents were taking a lot longer to respond to queries than pre-pandemic. And even pre-pandemic, it takes a while to get a response because obviously agents get lots of queries all the time, but especially post-pandemic, it just seemed like the workload increased exponentially. And so it was getting more difficult for them to respond in a timely manner and also respond with personalization. A lot of the pre-pandemic advice I was seeing was to query in small batches. That way, when you get responses, you have a chance to pivot. If you're getting a bunch of form rejects, you can think, okay, maybe my query isn't as hooky as I want it to be. Maybe my initial query package isn't enticing the agent into wanting to request a partial or request a full. It just gives you a hint that there could be stuff that you could work on within your query package to increase your odds. And if you query in small batches, then you have a chance to actually make those changes, whereas if you just sent your query out to all the agents on your list, then you would be ruining your shot. You wouldn't have a chance to pivot and all of them would see your bad first query. On the other hand, that combined with the sort of new standard of really long responses, it seemed like people were coming up against the problem of querying in small batches waiting forever for responses, and by the time they're halfway through or close to the end of their query list, they already have their next book ready to query. The problem being, you're not really supposed to be querying 2 books at once that are in the same genre. So I'm seeing all of this, and my first instinct is to try to preserve as much of that old way of querying as possible, mainly because I like the idea of being able to pivot based off of feedback that I receive. So my initial strategy when I started querying was to query in rounds of like 5 to 7. I would wait until I have maybe the majority of those responses. Like if I queried 7, maybe when I get 5 responses, I'll send out the next round. So that is what I did for my first round. I sent that out on September 13th, 2020, like I said, and I queried 7 agents total for that round. The other thing that I did for this first round is I prioritized agents that had quick response times because I wanted to get as much feedback as possible as early as possible, so that way maybe later down the line I could query in larger batches. The problem with this is the ones with the highest response times were probably also the ones who have assistants, who are big agents, who have big lists, and probably aren't going to be as enticed by my book specifically. While I did hear back from a lot of them fairly quickly, I got all form rejects for round 1. This brings up sort of the problem and the question I've been having about my own querying process. Are these form rejects because my query package isn't good? Do I need to revisit my query and my synopsis, my first pages? Are they like that because I queried a bunch of big agents up front? Are they like that because that's just how querying is sometimes? You get a lot of form rejects. That is to be expected, even pre-pandemic. Or am I getting a lot of form rejects because agents are now sending less personalized responses because of their workload, and to books that they may have personalized pre-pandemic, now they're just sending out forms? There's a lot of factors, and it is difficult, I think, to parse out exactly what the cause is. Granted, this is only a sample size of 7 as well, so who knows like what could happen in the future, which is sort of where I was at whenever I sent out my second round of queries. I will say also, in the midst of this, querying has not been my main focus. And what I mean by that is I definitely am putting time and attention into it, but it's the kind of thing that is happening on the back burner. I will go long stretches forgetting that I'm even querying at all, if that makes sense. Like when I think of Project Shadows, I know I'm querying it, obviously, but it's not at the forefront of my attention, and so it's easy for, when I'm not getting responses, it to just sort of slip to the back of my mind and me not remember, oh wait, I should check in on how that's going, and maybe I should send out my next round, and all of that sort of stuff. So that sort of explains also why my round 2 happened so far after my round 1. Round 2 for me, I sent out on April 17th of 2023, so 7 months after I sent my first round. By that time, I had received responses from all 7 of the first group of agents, but for round 2, I only sent out 5 queries. Now, I don't really remember what my mindset was for this. I don't remember if I planned to query more and then just stopped, or if for some reason I decided to do a smaller batch, but I sent out 5 queries. 2 of those I'm still waiting on responses from, and then 3 I have received form rejects for. Which brings me to today. It is the end of August, so it's been about 4.5 months since I sent out query round 2, and I'm at a bit of a crossroads in trying to figure out how to proceed with this. I have a lot more agents I want to query, and the process of querying has come more forefront to my mind recently. I have spent most of this year not writing, and so that's another reason why it sort of just easily slipped to the back of my mind. I'm working on my next book. I'm getting excited about publishing again. This sort of step away has reinvigorated my excitement about querying and about the prospect of becoming published. I do really love this book, and I do really think that it could make a really good story, the kind that I would have really enjoyed reading when I was in high school. So I'm not giving up, obviously, but it is sort of easy in this to wonder if, well, maybe this just isn't what people want right now. Maybe the premise just isn't good and the whole book is going to fall by the wayside just because I don't have like some like buzzy hooky pitch to give. Which is stupid, I know. Not every book needs to be like super high concept and super marketable, if that makes sense, just in the way that publishing can sometimes be. What I do know is I want to pick up the pace. I think that the small batch rounds of queries was maybe a good idea to begin with, but it's just not feasible in today's querying landscape. I think my new strategy going forward is going to be to send out queries in batches of 10. Still, you know, a manageable size, but bigger, and I'm covering more ground. And instead of waiting until I get like the majority of responses back, I will probably just wait like a month, month and a half, and then send out my next round of 10. And just do it based off of time rather than responses, if that makes sense. That way I know I'm getting through my list and I still sort of have that delayed trickle of responses coming in, just in case I do get like a personalized rejection or a like partial request or a revise and resubmit or anything like that. Thankfully, this new book that I'm working on is a middle grade, so there's not going to be overlap if I don't get through this list in time and I'm ready to query my next book. I should be able to query both of them at the same time, from what I understand about query etiquette. If I'm wrong about that, let me know. I will do more research on it before I actually do that, but from what I understand, that would be probably okay, because you would probably be querying different agents anyways. I'm going to take another look at my query and synopsis, just to see if there's anything I can spice up, but quite honestly, I feel like it was as strong as I could make it, and I had so many people read it, like, it got to the point where I was sending it to people and they were coming back with like, just let me read the book. I don't want like, they had no notes on stuff, and so I don't really even know what I could do to my query to make it better. But I will take another look at it. I'm not gonna put too much stock in all the form rejects though, mainly because of just that fact that agents are overwhelmed and they just aren't sending out personalizations as much. They're either sending out form rejects or they're sending out requests, and there's very few personalized rejects that are coming through right now. And that's a trend that I have been seeing across the board with other people who are querying right now. It just seems like we can no longer really take the form reject as an indication that your query isn't good enough, which is frustrating because if it isn't good enough, I would like to know. But who knows? Now we're just shooting in the dark, and it's as if publishing didn't already feel too much like that. So that is my plan, and now I'm going to share with you some stats on my querying journey thus far. Like I said, I've sent out 12 queries so far. 10 of those I've received form rejects for. 2 of those I have not received a response for. The quickest response I got was in round 1, and someone responded 2 days later, which was insane. And then the longest response I've gotten so far was also in round 1, and that was March 17th of 2023. So that took 26 weeks to get a response from that agent. From what I'm seeing on my numbers, I'm either getting response from agents like a week after I send the query, or it's taking like 10 plus weeks. So there's not really like a middle ground happening there. And most of those are happening like I have a 17, a 26, a 20, 2 11s, and then the 2 that I'm waiting on, it's been 18 weeks so far since I sent those queries. But all of that, the math comes out to about 11 weeks that I'm waiting for responses. That average definitely being dragged down by the 4 agents who replied to me within a week of me sending it. Obviously, since all of these are form rejects, I can't really create any parallels between if personalization is helping me or not. But so far I've sent 5 personalized queries and 7 not personalized queries, which that is something that I do want to change going forward. I've been basically using the same comp titles for like every single query because comp titles are hard, y'all. I am so bad at them. Something I want to do going forward is look more specifically at the agent's wish list, the stuff that they like, and pull comp titles that fit those things, and also my book. So obviously I'm not going to make something up. I'm not going to say something if it's not actually comparable. I would like to be better at my personalization going forward. So far I haven't nudged anyone in this because, like I said, it's been on the back burner of my mind, but I'm gonna look at those 2 queries that I'm still waiting for and see if I need to nudge either of them. And then hopefully within the next week, I will be sending out my 10 queries for round number 3. So yeah, that has been my query journey so far. It feels ridiculous that we're coming up on a year of querying and I've only sent 12 queries. If the frame just shifted, it's because my camera died, and so I did not get to actually finish wrapping up this video. That is basically all I wanted to say though. I am excited to continue querying. Every time I send out a round, I do get excited about the prospect of someone reading my stuff and liking it and wanting to represent me, so I'm excited to shoot my shot again. And it feels good querying this while also working on something different because I feel like the stakes are lower. I'm like, I've already got something in the works coming up behind it, rather than feeling like this one project, Project Shadows, is like make it or break it and I'm never gonna have anything else after this if it fails. That is all I had for you today. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you again soon. Bye!